Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. All praises are Allah's, Lord of the worlds, and may His peace and blessings be upon our Master, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and His pure, immaculate Ahlul Bayt. The story of Ashura, like all other stories in the Islamic texts, namely the Quran and the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt, is the story of the soul, story of the spirit. The story of Ashura, like all other stories of the Quran, is a story of how the soul grows, what the limits, what the potential of the human soul is. And finally, the story of Ashura, like other stories of the Quran, constitutes a commentary of the essence of our souls. You want to know what your souls are in essence and what they can be? You have to look in the stories of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. If one confines the stories of the Quran, stories of the Ahlul Bayt, to the external dimension, it's okay, it's important also. But if you confine it to only what happened externally, you're limiting not only religion, but you're limiting the self and your own potential. You're wasting it. So, in the Holy Quran, when we read of the story of David and Goliath, David being Dawood alayhi salam, and Goliath being Jalut, some just see this battle which happened, the head of the army of Haqq being Saul, Talut, and Dawood alayhi salam was in that army and had a fight, battled it out with Jalut, and he won. And that's okay, it's a story, but the Quran isn't a book of history alone. I'm sure other books of history go into much more detail in relation to this battle. So it can't be the ends. But some people only see the physical side, the external side to this battle of David and Goliath in Surah Al-Baqarah. But then some people see the codes that the Quran is outlining in these stories. And those codes are important. And those codes constitute the story of the soul, of the spirit. It says Allah will test you with a stream. It's important. What does this mean? How can Allah test the people with a stream, a river? And then one of the codes follows, فَمَنْ شَرَبَ مِنْهُ فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. Anyone who drinks from the stream is not one of us. Saul is saying this, a man of God. He received revelation. He wasn't a prophet, but he was a man of God. Suddenly we see this is a code here. If you drink from the stream, you're not one of us. What does this stream mean? The traditions of the Ahlul Bayt are esoteric commentaries of the verses of the Quran. Inna dunya bahrun. Verily the world, life, is an ocean. فَقَدْ غَرِقَ فِيهَا جَيْلٌ كَثِيرٌ. Waves of people get drowned in it. Whoever drinks from it is not one of us. the story of the soul. You shouldn't drink from the worldly life. You see how it's a story, but when you go into it, with the help of the traditions, you see that it teaches you how to progress, how to elevate your soul. These are more important. The external dimension is important too, but it's only a conduit. It's a route to an important message. The message being the soul. The soul has to elevate. Or in relation to the story of Noah alayhi salam and his son, وَنَادَى نُوحٍ ابْنَهُ. Noah called his son. He was in the ark. His son is about to get drowned. He's calling his son to come in. You all know the story of Noah and the ark. 40 days raining and so on and so forth. Look, that's one side, that's one dimension. But then you see the codes coming again. Noah called his son وَكَانَ فِي مَعْزِلٍ. He stood aloof. He stood away, distanced. Noah's son. Here we see that the Quran is explaining the cause of Noah's son's spiritual downfall. Okay, there's a flooding. That flooding has a physical dimension to it. We can never negate it. But then some people look at the spiritual flooding, how one can be spiritually flooded, and how that can lead to our spiritual downfall. Why should we become drowned spiritually? What is the cause of many of our spiritual downfalls? Kana fi ma'zil. He's still aloof. Speaking to me and you now. You stand distanced away from the masses. You stand aloof, you will fall. You have to be with the people. You can't live in isolation. You can't grow in isolation. The spirit, the soul, the story of the soul here is that the soul can only grow by being with the people. If you want to manifest Allah's attributes and be a manifestation of Allah's attributes, you have to manifest them and incorporate them only when you're with the people. If Allah is all patient, how are you going to manifest patience if you live alone? How are you going to manifest generosity if you're always alone, isolating yourself from everyone? See those codes again. Now, the massacre of Karbala is infiltrated with codes. The Maktelët that we read, and we've read for centuries, all of them are infiltrated with codes of the soul. Now this is important. There's one part of the Maktelët which we have to focus on where it brings about people's emotions, and that's okay. It's both wrong to deny that, and it's not correct, etiquette-wise, to reject this dimension of religion. It may be abused in some parts of the world. No one's denying that. But to discard this element of the Maktelët is not doing service to Islam. No one is rejecting that. But there are important messages in these very Maktelët in relation to the massacre of Karbala. And the more one reads them, the more spiritual codes to salvation one encounters. Codes which fulfill one's soul. Codes in the massacre of Karbala. Codes which tell you how to purify yourself. These are important. How to elevate. There are many characters, many individuals at this massacre of Karbala. Each character is portraying and illustrating a dimension of the soul in its own right. So, we have the Qasimi code attributed to Qasim ibn Hassan alayhi salam. The Qasimi code is the Qasimi dimension of the human soul. It's within everyone. Here, this code, this Qasimi dimension, tells us how to reach the status of seeing death as ahla min al-asal, sweeter than honey. It's a dimension of the soul. It's important. All the characters here are dimensions of the soul. I mean, we're not reading the Maktelët every day for nothing. It's important. It's for our soul's elevation. The story of Qasim and the Qasimi dimension of the soul is the story of how the soul reaches a point where death is sweeter than honey, whereby from action to action, day to day, one continuously makes a choice between two things, from action to action. Either staying embedded in the worldly life or ascending closer to Allah. Death being the transition from one realm to the other. Every one step closer to Allah, you're dying and being reborn again. This has to be made sweet. Otherwise the soul will not grow. This point of discarding the worldly life and rather wanting to ascend towards Allah more, this has to be made sweet. So that if they ask you, how do you see death? Sweeter than honey. The story of Hur, where the Maktelët read that with contemplation, deep tafakkur, deliberation, careful deliberation, and observing the correct adab and etiquette before the Ma'sumeen, he undergoes an apparition. He sees heaven on one side and hell on the other. Story of the soul. We have that capacity. If we want for things to be opened up for us and unfolded, if we want to see those truths to aid us to make the right decision at the right time, here the code being tafakkur and observing the etiquette in relation to the Ahlul Bayt. The story of Habib ibn Madahir is the story of the soul's zeal towards the Ahlul Bayt. It's important. We have to have ghirat before the Ahlul Bayt. We can't be, when people attack the Ahlul Bayt, we can't be indifferent to that. Even today, we can't stand various attacks against Ahlul Bayt. We can't be indifferent to it. Habib, on hearing that animal saying that the salat of Imam Hussein and those won't be accepted, but his will, no, his zeal was triggered. Our zeal has to be triggered. A zealous Shia isn't, a true follower of the Ahlul Bayt. We have to express that zeal. Everyone to their own capacity. The story of Zainab alayhi salam, ma ra'aytu illa jamila. This is incredible. But this is the Zainabi dimension of the human soul. When it comes to the Sharia, yes, Zainab, so that things become recorded in history in the future, says, this is wrong what you're doing. And sometimes she uses metaphors, so down throughout history, these metaphors remain. If only the skies would be cleft asunder. If only I wasn't here. Not that she doesn't want to be there. She wants to express something. The caliber of oppression which was occurring. Otherwise, she's a true arif. She could bear all this. But if she was to keep it all within and never express everything, the message wouldn't have been conveyed. Then we have the Abbasi dimension of the soul. Where was it that Abbas alayhi salam, what was the code that he offers us in the Maktelët? تذكر أتش الحسين. He recalled the thirst of Hussein and the family members of Hussein. And as a result, فَرَمَى الْمَاء. He put aside the water. There's no need to confine it to that particular incident. You can now extend it to all aspects of life. How ready are we to sacrifice our lives so that the Ahlul Bayt's teachings become more and more manifested throughout the world? See, these are important. And then finally, our master, our Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the things that we see from the plains of Qerbala that he did was really incredible. But we get drowned in the particularities instead of seeing the reasons behind it. In relation to Ali Asghar, he throws the blood to the skies. The blood never returns back onto earth. Why? What's this trying to tell us? It's all about loving the enemy. He doesn't want the enemy to be destroyed. He wants to give them a further opportunity to come this way. And we see in the massacre of Qerbala, from the beginning to the end, waves of people keep on coming towards the camp of Imam Hussein. Why? Every stage of the massacre, he gives one opportunity. He doesn't want the blood to spill on the earth. If that blood had spilled on the earth, all of them would have perished. But Imam Hussein is the Imam of everyone. He's the Imam of the good and the bad. If there's an iota of probability that these enemies will come his way, he's the Imam. He has to, go through all the possible means of attracting them towards the truth. And then with Shimr, he even offered and guaranteed his repentance, his intercession, if Shimr were to repent. See, these are not simple things to discard. Story of the soul. And then we can't even forgive our religious brothers when there's the smallest of quarrels. It's very embarrassing sometimes. But it's all dimensions of the soul being commentated upon. That's the story of Allah. And all these are Allah's attributes that come into play on the plains of Qerbala in the year 61 after the Hijrah. It's all a matter of Allah's attributes coming into a play in a manner that has no precedent. There's no precedence to this coming. The situation, the socio-political parameters, everything occurred in such a manner that Allah's attributes came into play in such a manner for everyone to learn from. You can't find anything to this degree of Allah's attributes manifesting. Qerbala is all about manifesting Allah's attributes maximally. So, the tradition, every land is Qerbala, every day is Ashura. some people enter these arguments, do we have such a tradition? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's a tradition on this or not. It's an indisputable truth. It's part of the Shia ideology. It's undeniable that every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala. Because as Shias, we want to manifest Allah's attributes every day, wherever we are. And that happened maximally in the year 61 AH, but that's our slogan. We don't have to prove that tradition. It's a truth. Okay. I'll stop there with your permission. Thank you for listening, guys.